Welcome back once again, and today we're going to test our knowledge on Australian literature. One of those topics that quietly appears in every UGC NET English exam but guarantees marks if you've prepared smartly. In fact, almost every single time, at least 2 questions come from this topic alone. So I've gone ahead and collected all the previous year questions on Australian literature, and here's what I found. It's often the same set of questions repeated again and again in different forms. That means you don't have to guess or prepare blindly. Most of the time, 100%, you'll get at least one question from Aboriginal Australian writers. Sometimes even 2, especially from names like Oodgeroo, Noonuccal, also known as Kath Walker, Sally Morgan, Jack Davis, and Doris Pilkington. In addition to that, one more question usually appears from either Judith Wright, Patrick White, Peter Carey, or sometimes even Philip Roth. Though, remember, Roth is American, and that confusion is part of the trap. So get ready, because this session is designed to guarantee you 4 to 6 marks if you understand the pattern. Let's get started. Alright, let's begin this session with a foundational question. Can you identify the Aboriginal Australian writers from the list below? Here are the names: Kim Scott, Peter Carey, Oodgeroo Noonuccal, Kevin Gilbert, Derek Walcott. Now choose the correct set. You can pause the video and answer in the comment below. Let's think this through. Kim Scott, yes. He's a celebrated Aboriginal writer known for Benang and That Dead Men Dance. Oodgeroo Noonuccal, formerly known as Kath Walker, was the first Aboriginal Australian to publish a book of verse. Kevin Gilbert, also yes. Poet, playwright, and one of the strongest voices in Aboriginal activism. What about the others? Peter Carey is a major Australian novelist but not Aboriginal. Derek Walcott? Brilliant poet, but he's from St. Lucia in the Caribbean. So what's the correct group? The answer is option 3. A, C and D only? These 3. Kim Scott, Oodgeroo Noonuccal and Kevin Gilbert. They represent powerful Aboriginal voices in Australian literature, writing about land, identity and resistance with lyrical and political force. Great start if you nailed it. Let's move on to the next one. This one is all about activism through literature. Who among the following writers have played a significant role in the Australian Aboriginal movements? Judith Wright, Oodgeroo Noonuccal, Jack Davis, David Maloof, or Kevin Gilbert? Here are your answer options. You can again pause the video and answer in the comment below. Time for a quick breakdown. Oodgeroo Noonuccal. Of course, she was one of the most vocal poet activist for Aboriginal rights. Jack Davis, absolutely. His plays and poetry gave strong voice to Aboriginal identity and resistance. Kevin Gilbert, yes again. He was not just a writer, but a fierce political advocate and cultural figure. What about the rest? Judith Wright did support Indigenous rights, yes. But she wasn't Aboriginal herself and isn't central to the movement's inner literary circle. David Maloof is a major Australian author, but not involved in Aboriginal activism. So, who stands out as movement leaders? The correct answer is option 1, B, C and E only. These 3, Oodgeroo Noonuccal, Jack Davis and Kevin Gilbert, used their writing to fuel the Aboriginal struggle for voice, land and justice. Strong work if you got that. You're tuned into both literature and history. Let's continue. This one asks you to identify the pioneers of the Australian Aboriginal movement in literature. Which of the following writers pioneered the Australian Aboriginal movement? David Maloof, Kevin Gilbert, Oodgeroo Noonuccal, Jack Davis, or is it Judith Wright? Choose from the following options. Pause the video and write in the comment below. Let's break it down. Kevin Gilbert. Yes. A poet, playwright and activist who used his pen to challenge colonial narratives. Oodgeroo Noonuccal, absolutely. She was the first Aboriginal poet to be published in English and a political voice for her people. Jack Davis, no doubt. His plays focused on the impact of colonization on Aboriginal families and culture. Now, what about the others? David Malouf is a prominent Australian writer but not Aboriginal and not part of the activist movement. Judith Wright supported Aboriginal causes as an ally, but again, she wasn't a pioneer from within the movement. So, which group truly led from within? The correct answer is option 2, B, C, and D only. These three, Kevin Gilbert, Oodgeroo Noonuccal, and Jack Davis, didn't just write literature. They defined the Aboriginal literary movement in Australia. Well done if you caught that. You're building a sharp understanding of Aboriginal literature. Let's move on. Here's a milestone moment in Australian literary history. A question about the very first published book of poetry by an Aboriginal author. Which text is considered to be the first book of poetry published by an Aboriginal author? Is it Tracy Moffat's Night Cries, A Rural Tragedy? Or is it David Unaipon's Native Legends? What about Oodgeroo Noonuccal's We Are Going? Or Doris Pilkington Garimara's Caprice? A Stockman's Daughter? Let's decode this. Tracy Moffat is best known for her visual art and film, not poetry. David Unaipon did publish early Aboriginal stories, but in prose, not poetry. Doris Pilkington wrote powerful novels like Follow the Rabbit-Proof Fence, not poetry. So what's left? Oodgeroo Noonuccal, formerly known as Kath Walker. She shook the literary world with her debut poetry collection, We Are Going, in 1964. And the correct answer, option 3, Oodgeroo Noonuccal's We Are Going. This was the first book of poetry ever published by an Aboriginal Australian, marking the beginning of a powerful literary and political voice for Indigenous identity. If you knew that you're on the right track, let's keep going. Let's go quick on this one. Who among the following is an Australian Aboriginal poet? Here are your options. Judith Wright, Kath Walker, Robert Frost, or Maya Angelou. Let me give you a hint. Look for the original name of Oodgeroo Noonuccal, the first Aboriginal poet to publish a collection in English. Got it? The answer is option 2, Kath Walker. She later changed her name to Oodgeroo Noonuccal and led the way in Aboriginal literary activism. On point if you got that, let's head to the next. Let's turn to one of the most powerful Aboriginal poems ever written, Oodgeroo Noonuccal's We Are Going. In this poem, what does she highlight as the impact of colonial conquest on Aboriginal Australians? Loss of Bora ground, loss of Aboriginal identity, loss of new education, loss of primitive culture. None of the above. Your options are here. Now you can pause the video and write your answer in the comment below. Here's your hint. The poem is not about the lack of formal education or Western schooling. Instead, it mourns the loss of sacred sites like the Bora ground, the erasure of identity, and the destruction of traditional ways of life. That's why the correct answer is option 1, A, B, and D only. We Are Going captures the collective grief of a people whose history, culture, and spiritual spaces were taken. It's a poem of protest, memory, and cultural survival. If you got that, well done. That's the heart of Aboriginal resistance poetry. Here's a question that tests your awareness of global poets and their geographical roots. Who among the following poets have lived in Australia? Judith Wright, Yusuf Komunyaka, Kath Walker, Thomas Kinsella, T.S. Eliot. Choose from the options and write in the comment below. Here's your clue. Judith Wright, absolutely. A central figure in Australian poetry and environmental activism. Kath Walker, also known as Oodgeroo Noonuccal, was born and lived in Queensland. A voice of Aboriginal pride, and though it surprises many, Yusuf Komunyaka, the American poet, lived and taught in Australia for a short period. Thomas Kinsella is Irish. And T.S. Eliot lived in the USA and Britain, never Australia. So the correct answer is option 2, A, B, and C. These poets had a real connection to the Australian landscape, identity, and voice, and that often shaped their work and worldview. Let's head to the next question. Ready? Let's sharpen our memory with a classic matching question, one that connects Aboriginal Australian texts to their authors. List 1 contains text like Wangin Country, Plains of Promise, My Place, Not Meeting Mr. Right. And list 2 contains authors like Alexis Wright, Jack Davis, Anita Heiss, Sally Morgan. Here are your options. Now you can pause the video and write your answer in the comment below. Let's break it down. Wangin Country was written by Jack Davis, who is known for his plays and poetry on Aboriginal life. Plains of Promise is by Alexis Wright, who also wrote Carpentaria. My Place is the famous autobiography of Sally Morgan, a foundational Aboriginal text. And Not Meeting Mr. Right is a contemporary novel by Anita Heiss, blending humor with cultural themes. So your match is option 3. A perfect combination of past and present Aboriginal voices, from activism to autobiography to contemporary fiction. If you got that, then hats off to your excellent memory. Let's move forward. Here's a key question. Which of the following are Australian Aboriginal texts? A. Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. B. Terra Nullius by Claire G. Coleman. C. My Place by Sally Morgan. D. The Bondwoman's Narrative by Hannah Bond. E. Follow the Rabbit-Proof Fence by Doris Pilkington. Your options are given here. You can write your answer in the comment below. Let's break it down quickly. Hurston and Hannah Bond are African American writers, not Australian. Claire G. Coleman, Sally Morgan, and Doris Pilkington are all Aboriginal Australian authors, writing about colonialism, displacement, and survival. So your answer? Option 2, B, C, and E only. These 3 texts reflect Aboriginal identity, resistance, and cultural memory. Essential reading in Australian Indigenous literature. Let's try a different type of questions with a 2-statement question, combining Australian and South African literature. Statement 1 says, Doris Pilkington's Follow the Rabbit-Proof Fence is based on the experiences of the stolen generation. Statement 2 says, Nadine Gordimer's My Son's Story deals with colored or mixed-race protagonists in the backdrop of apartheid. You can pause the video and write your answer in the comment below. Let's check. Follow the Rabbit-Proof Fence tells the real story of 3 Aboriginal girls forcibly taken from their families, part of the stolen generation. My Son's Story by Nadine Gordimer is set in apartheid South Africa and centers on colored protagonists caught in political resistance and racial struggle. So, the correct answer? Option 1. Both Statement 1 and Statement 2 are correct. Both novels are rooted in historical injustice, one from Australia, the other from South Africa, but both telling stories of identity, separation, and survival. Let's dig into the real-life basis of a powerful non-fiction narrative. Statement 1 says, Follow the Rabbit-Proof Fence by Doris Pilkington is based on the real-life experiences of 3 Aboriginal girls who fled from the Moore River native settlement. Statement 2 says, the names of the 3 girls are Molly, Daisy, and Mary. Write your answer in the comment below. Let's clarify. Statement 1 is correct. The book is a true account of 3 Aboriginal girls escaping the government settlement to return home by following the rabbit-proof fence. But Statement 2 is slightly off. The girls' names were Molly, Daisy, and Gracie, not Mary. So the accurate answer is option 3. Statement 1 is correct, but Statement 2 is incorrect. It's a minor detail, but a critical one. Knowing names and facts exactly can help you avoid traps in objective exams. Let's try another match the following, and this one blends American and Australian voices. List 1 contains poets like Emily Dickinson, Kath Walker, Judith Wright, and Yusuf Komunyakaa. List 2 contains works like Woman to Man, Banking Potatoes, Because I Could Not Stop for Death We Are Going. You can pause the video and write your answer in the comment below. Here's a fast breakdown. Emily Dickinson's Because I Could Not Stop for Death. That's a classic. Cat Walker's We Are Going, her revolutionary debut, Judith Wright's Woman to Man, a major piece on motherhood and creation, Yusuf Komunyakar's Banking Potatoes from his Vietnam-era poetry. So the correct match? Option 4. That's a powerful lineup of poets, crossing continents, identities, and histories. Let's go another matching challenge, and this one's packed with iconic Aboriginal voices in Australian literature. List 1 contains authors like Sally Morgan, Monica Clare, Doris Pilkington, and Alexis Wright. List 2 contains texts like Carobran, Caprice a Stockman's Daughter, My Place and Plains of Promise. Quick recall helps here. Sally Morgan wrote the autobiographical classic My Place. Monica Clare's Carobran is one of the earliest novels by an Aboriginal woman. Doris Pilkington is best known for Caprice before her global success with Rabbit Proof Fence. Alexis Wright authored Plains of Promise before winning the Miles Franklin. So the correct match is option 2, which is absolutely right. You've just completed a powerful set of 13 questions on Aboriginal Australian writers. Congratulations! If you followed closely, you've locked in at least 4 solid marks. No guesswork, no surprises, just pattern-based smart study. Now it's time to shift gears. While Aboriginal voices form the emotional core of Australian literature, the UGC NET exam often includes at least 1 or 2 questions from the wider spectrum of Australian writers. Think names like Judith Wright, Patrick White, Peter Carey, and David Malouf, writers who explored history, landscape, memory, and modern identity. Let's now dive into this next set of questions and complete your full coverage on Australian literature. Keep your focus sharp. Every mark counts. Alright, let's test your literary instincts. Here's your question. Which 2 of the following poems are by Judith Wright? Meditation on a Bone, Imperial Adam, Woman to Man, The Old Prison. Now before you jump to the options, here's a quick clue. Judith Wright is known for her deep reflections on nature, womanhood, and Australia's colonial history. Her poems often carry a haunting lyrical quality with a strong undercurrent of resistance and identity. So, if you're thinking Woman to Man sounds like a feminist title and The Old Prison fits her landscape, rooted metaphor style, you're spot on. The correct answer is 2, C, and D only. Drop your answer in the comments if you got it right. And if not, don't worry, we're just getting started. Let's see if you can spot the odd one out. Which of the following is not an autobiography? Patrick White, A Life, Long Walk to Freedom, My Experiments with Truth, Akarmashi, The Outcast. Here's a quick clue. Autobiographies are written by the person themselves, but biographies, they're written about someone else. Now, Patrick White, A Life was actually written by David Marr, not by Patrick White himself. That makes it a biography, not an autobiography. The correct answer is 1. Patrick White, A Life. How many autobiographies from this list have you actually read? Tell me in the comments. Alright folks, here comes a question on one of Australia's literary giants, Patrick White. So tell me, Patrick White, the Australian novelist, was a recipient of which of the following? Australian of the Year in 1973, Pulitzer Prize in 1965, Booker Prize in 1955, Nobel Prize in Literature in 1973, Perkins Prize in Narrative in 1992. Let me give you a quick hint. Patrick White was not American, so the Pulitzer's out. He also won a certain global honor the same year he was named Australian of the Year. So yes, you guessed it. So the correct answer is 2, A and D only. He became the first and so far only Australian writer to win the Nobel Prize in Literature back in 1973. Pretty cool, right? Let's move on to the next one. Here's a sharp one for your UGC NET prep. Which of the following novels is written by Patrick White? Let's take a quick look at the options. Cry, The Beloved Country. That's Alan Paton from South Africa. The Vivisector, yes, that's the right answer. A powerful novel by Patrick White, The Handmaid's Tale. That belongs to Margaret Atwood from Canada. The Stone Angel, another Canadian classic written by Margaret Lawrence. So, the correct answer is 2. The Vivisector, Patrick White's The Vivisector, is a deep psychological study of an artist. Dense, layered, and quintessentially white. Got it? Lock that in. Let's keep going. Here's another UGC NET favorite, pairing writers with their countries. Let's break it down. Which among the following are correct? J.M. Coetzee from South Africa? Absolutely, Nobel Prize winner and known for disgrace. Margaret Atwood from Canada? No doubt here. Author of The Handmaid's Tale. Is Philip Roth from Australia? Nope. Roth is a major voice in American literature. What about Orhan Pamuk from Turkey? Correct. Nobel laureate and author of My Name is Red. Graham Swift from New Zealand? Incorrect. He's actually British, known for Waterland. So, the correct combination is A, B, and D only. These match the author to the country. Questions repeat often. Remember the patterns. Let's quickly verify each pairing to see which ones are correct. Philip Roth from USA? Correct. A towering figure in American literature, known for Portnoy's Complaint and American Pastoral. Shirley Jackson from Australia? Nope. She was an American writer famous for The Lottery and We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Henry James from Canada? Incorrect. He was born in the USA and later became a British citizen, not Canadian. Ruskin Bond from India? Yes. Though of British descent, he is firmly associated with Indian literature and has lived in India most of his life. Is Ali Cobby Eckermann from Australia? Absolutely. A renowned Aboriginal Australian poet, known for Inside My Mother and winner of the Wyndham Campbell Prize. So the correct answer is 3, A, D, and E. The last question of the day, let's match the list. List 1 contains events like International Year of the World's Indigenous People, Australian Parliament formally apologised to the stolen generation, formal end of White Australia policy, the first National Sorry Day. On the other hand, list 2 contains years of the event like 1998, 1993, 1973, 2008. The correct answer is option 4, International Year of the World's Indigenous People in 1993. This was declared by the United Nations to raise awareness about the rights and contributions of Indigenous communities across the globe. Australian Parliament formally apologised to the stolen generation in 2008. This was the emotional and long overdue apology led by Prime Minister Kevin Rudd on the 13th of February 2008. Formal end of White Australia policy in 1973. Though dismantled over years, 1973 marks the official end of the racially exclusionary immigration policy. The first National Sorry Day in 1998, held on 26 May 1998, it commemorates the mistreatment of the stolen generations. So the correct answer is option 4. These events are more than dates. They're milestones of recognition, apology, and slow healing. Keep them in mind. They're high probability UGC NET facts. So that's the end of our journey through Australian literature. We've covered around 20 carefully chosen questions, and believe me, these aren't just random guesses. They're solid, recurring patterns that have appeared time and again in the UGC NET exam. Together, they guarantee you 4 to 6 marks if revised well. And remember, all of this comes straight from our book, Literature of the World. That's all for today. I'll see you in our next session. Till then, take care, keep revising, and all the very best for your exam.